What's up, my friends? Welcome to this live stream. We are in episode number 41 of the Health Breakdown. And essentially, my friends, we are discussing today's biggest health topics and giving you simple, practical steps to improve your health, your energy, and your longevity. So this is where I go through about 9-10 videos, give my perspective, get your feedback, and have a discussion to, again, help you optimize your health and your longevity at the end of the day. So without further ado, my friends, let's get into it.
The world understands that Fauci has committed two crimes. One is fraudulent concealment. He intentionally concealed the origins of SARS-CoV-2 from his funded projects in Wuhan. If we would have known what the story was originally, I think we could have done better in our pandemic response. And the second major crime I think he committed is mass negligent homicide by two mechanisms. First, he worked to suppress our efforts at publishing and promulgating early treatment protocols to get people through the illness. And secondly, he relentlessly promoted unsafe vaccines that took hundreds of thousands of American lives and millions of lives worldwide. It's been the greatest biological catastrophe mankind has ever seen. And largely, Fauci is responsible for orchestrating this on the world. He approached Biden for 10 years pardon for crimes he knew he committed. It's not handed out without a request.
So, my friends, the reason why I showed this one here today is, and I was listening to the Bible earlier today about false prophets. And essentially, when you are sharing information, if you are sharing lies, if you are sharing harmful information, essentially you have to take that on, right? If I'm suggesting something that's going to hurt you or harm you or kill you or maim you, I have repercussions for that, right? And so for, again, many years at this point, we have demonstrated that, the COVID shots and many other health dynamics were not beneficial for your health, but just really from the simple perspective of sharing truth. I want you guys to understand that this is a truthful dynamic, right? Always suggested to search for truth, seek truth, right? Seek health, true health. And I just want you guys to understand that this is a place that you can trust. Well, the information that we are sharing is truthful, is trustworthy, and we have years of being historically correct to support that. So when you are searching for truth, specifically in the health space, I want you to lean into truthful sources, not just me, but others that are conveying truth and that are actually speaking truth to help you with your health and many other aspects of your life, and that have the historical data and being historically correct to support that. And obviously, Fauci does not have that to support his case. But this is someone who recommended harmful dynamics, cause people's jobs, cost them their jobs, I should say, cost them their lives, and many other harmful dynamics to the whole setup. And so, want to pray, right, for all those that have been harmed or maimed or hurt in the process, but also seeking justice to those that are recommending things that are harmful, that are damaging, that are life-threatening, and just not truthful whatsoever. So hopefully you guys can start to see through these kinds of folks that are smoke and mirrors, that are pleading the fifth in court right now to their recommendations that were, again, instrumental in a lockdown that actually proved to be a complete lie and harmful at the end of the day. So I won't beat a dead horse here. I used to do these videos all the time. But there's just a lot of negativity involved around it. And so I only bring them up sparingly, but it's nice to see when you stand on the side of something and over years of time, it turns out to be that you were on the side of truth, which, again, we knew way back when those that, again, stood for truth and also didn't just go along with the narrative and knew internally something wasn't right, knew internally something didn't feel right, and stood against it. And to all of you, I have a ton of respect for doing that. So let's pop on to the next one here, my friends.
Ingredients of the vaccine, like what the vaccines contain, which I've also mentioned in the vaccine crime report. So when I got to know that vaccines contain all of these, so I would read some of them. So when I got to know that vaccines contain aluminum, glyphosate, formaldehyde, glutaraldehyde, thimerosal, polysorbate, pork gelatin, human albumin, fetal bovine serum, monkey kidney cells, aborted human fetal cells, neomycin, urea, animal DNA, egg protein, yeast protein, chicken protein, potassium chloride, potassium phosphate, sodium borate, sodium hydroxide, sodium phosphate, and I had a background in natural hygiene, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I mean, like, this looks toxic, filthy, disgusting, and harmful. How can this promote health? And that's when I woke up to the vaccine agenda. I started researching and reading thousands of studies on vaccine science, and that's when I compiled the vaccine crime report. Yeah.
My friends, this leads into, the next dynamic here. And this is another thing to challenge, right? We want to be about truth. We want to focus on truth at the end of the day, not emotions, not what we are, what we've been taught or what has been propagated to us over the years. We have to learn to work through that. We have to be able to recognize things that don't make sense, that don't feel right, that don't add up. And again, for years, I have been against vaccines because they cause harm. They do damage. They end lives. And if, again, just challenge the thought. Is mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, polysorbate, do any of those bring health and healing? Does any of that sound like a breath of fresh air? No. So again, challenge the status quo, challenge the narrative of vaccines being beneficial for your health. That is not a needle of health, my friends. It is a needle of toxicity, damage, and death, unfortunately. And again, if I can help anyone, just one person, to recognize that they don't need to lean into injected immunity and they can believe in natural immunity, and my friends, then we're winning. And to have that be passed down within a person's family to save the next generation, to save their children, is a major win. And again, just want you to challenge that narrative, my friends. When you stop believing that mercury and formaldehyde and aluminum are going to do something magical and beneficial for your health, then you have woken up and you have recognized the truth. And again, leaning into naturopathy, leaning into nature and God's medicine. There is nothing good that comes from injected immunity, but more problems and more problems.
It isn't just good for your mood. The data on what it does to your lifespan is one of the most underreported stories in longevity medicine. I'm Dr. Voss, longevity doctor with an MD from Cornell. Most people treat sunlight as optional, or even as an annoyance. The biology says otherwise. First, the circadian mechanism. Morning sunlight hitting your retina within 30 minutes of waking triggers the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your brain's master clock, to set the timing of every downstream hormonal and metabolic process. One of them, for many years, shows significantly elevated rates of cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and certain cancers. That means it's no joke. Second, the vitamin D pathway. Skin exposure to UVB light is the primary driver of vitamin D synthesis. Vitamin D insufficiency, present in roughly 40% of adults, is associated with higher all-cause mortality, elevated cardiovascular risk, immune dysfunction, and accelerated cognitive decline. Sun-derived vitamin D behaves differently in the body than the supplement form. It's produced in proportion to the actual UVB exposure, stored in fat tissue, and released more gradually. Third, is the nitric oxide pathway, and this is the least discussed. UVA light penetrating the skin triggers the release of nitric oxide that's stored in the dermis, or the skin, and it releases it directly into the bloodstream. Nitric oxide dilates vessels, lowers blood pressure, and improves endothelial function. This is a direct, supplement-independent cardiovascular effect that occurs within minutes. The protocol, 10 to 20 minutes of morning sunlight with 30 minutes of walking, eyes open, no sunglasses, outdoors, 10 to 30 minutes of midday UVB exposure, ideally to large skin areas when the UV index is above 3. This is not about tanning. Morning sunlight is free. It takes 15 minutes and sets your hormones, metabolism, and cardiovascular function for the rest of the day. Follow for the interventions that actually compound.
Yeah, my friends, from a practical perspective, the sunlight, man, we have overestimated the sun for so long. And again, I think we've been propagated to believe that the sun is harmful when in fact it is so medicinal to the body. It's unbelievable. Me personally, I've overestimated it in the last decade. Really have been drawn to it in the last 3 years, but even the last year, I could just continue to be drawn more to the sun and understanding how beneficial it truly is. My protocol in the morning, and actually we're going to get to a protocol in the morning here, but that exactly what he said. What I do is I wake up, and within 10 minutes, I'm outside barefoot on the ground walking. Not only am I getting that sun exposure, but I'm also listening to the Bible. I'm also praying, and it just does something so incredibly beneficial for me, for my soul, for my mind, for my emotions, for my body. But in regards to the circadian rhythm, I'm setting myself up right. And again, 10 to 30 minutes in the morning, boom. Try to get out there 10 to 30 minutes in the afternoon. I'm hitting 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and 30 minutes in the evening. But regardless, my friends, the sun needs to be a more celebrated doctor than the actual doctor, right? That's where we need to be shifting our focus, in my opinion, is leaning into the sun. It is tremendously beneficial and will do you more positives, most likely, than so many other things that we're searching for. We're looking for the next pill, the next hack, the next biohack. Start with simplicity. As soon as you wake up, get out into the sun. See what it does for you, my friends. I promise you, it will not let you down. We'll continue that with something a little bit more in detail.
Light protocol. 99% of people commit this crime, if you will, and it's costing them their health. Most people, what do? They reach for their phone within 2 to 5 minutes of waking up. That single habit is quietly dismantling your energy systems, your hormonal and neurotransmitter pathways, and your sleep every single day. Here's why, and here's what I tell my patients to do instead. 70% of your mitochondrial output, your cellular energy, does not come from food. It comes from light, water, and magnetism. Most people have never heard this because conventional medicine is still operating on a purely biochemical model. But the biophysical model is clear. Your mitochondria are light-sensitive engines, and the first light signal of the day sets the entire metabolic tone for the next 24 hours. So what does the protocol actually look like? Wake up 15 minutes before the sun rises, if you can. Don't switch on overhead LED lights. They spike the wrong part of the spectrum before your biology is ready. If you need light to move around, use a red lamp. Red light is in the 600 to 700 nanometer range, and it's the one wavelength that actively stimulates so-called cytochrome C oxidase. That's complex 4 in your mitochondrial electron transport chain. It directly increases ATP production, energy production. Then you go outside. Don't look through a window that's closed, as glass filters the frequencies that matter. Actually go outdoors. Outdoor exposure to early morning full spectrum light for at least 30 minutes. No sunglasses. This is what entrains your suprachiasmatic nucleus, your master circadian pacemaker. And from there, every clock gene in and every organ in your body gets calibrated for the day. Melatonin is produced for nighttime. Cortisol curve is stabilized for the next morning. Immune tone is set. Gut motility is set. And all of it runs downstream from that first morning light signal. Your phone can wait.
My friends, we're seeing an overlap of, some of the recommendation, but without all of, again, we're never going to understand everything that the sun does for us. We're never going to understand all of the benefits that sleep does for us. Yep, sure, we're going to learn a whole lot. But the bottom line, regardless if you fully understand what the sun or what sleep is going to do for you, is, are you doing what you should be doing? This is about habits. This is about lifestyle. So are you getting first light? Are you stepping outside within 30 minutes of waking? Those are the things that you should focus on. You should focus on your actions. You should focus on your habits. What are you actually doing to bring the benefits from the action, from the sun, from the sleep, whatever it is, from the exercise? So again, don't get too overwhelmed, especially if you're newer or you're just learning this stuff or it's just hearing it for the first time, but focus on what you're doing. So I would challenge you, if you're not waking up and getting out into the sun first thing within 30 minutes, to do that. Start there. See how that works for you. And if you can skip this first thing, man, do that. Massively beneficial, my friends.
Tie a wire around somebody's toe and it's going to make them sleep better. I said, get out of here. Go away. You're nuts. So I ended up having to put together my own study, and we grounded 60 people, and the reports that came in were unbelievable. TMJ disappeared, PMS disappeared, inflammation reduced, pain. Everybody slept better. Found an anesthesiologist in San Diego, and he says, I don't think there's anything to what you're doing. There's got to be an anomaly here, but I'll entertain you. He says, I will prove that you're wrong. It's the first study that I did that was a legitimate study where we had quantifiable data. Then we decided, well, we're going to do a big study now. And we ended up attracting scientists, physicists. When they saw the study, everybody said, well, this is really pretty interesting.
My friends, if you have not seen the Earthing movie, I highly suggest that you do. It'll change your life, really. After watching that movie, it's about an hour long or so. That is where I began to implement grounding in my day every single day. And honestly, my football injuries, my knee, multiple knee surgeries, broken toe, which is the weirdest, most prolonged injury that affects me today, felt so minor at the time. Regardless, walking barefoot, and there is just so many positives that come when you connect your body to the earth, to the ground. And in a very simplistic way, the earth has an electronic charge, right? It emits negative ions. We as humans will dispel positive ions, which are actually negative, right, from the body into the ground. And the earth will dispel negative ions, which are positive to the body, into our body. And so like a circuit, right? Very, very simple. And the piece right here, before grounding, heavy inflammation, I'll bring it back into focus. Before grounding, heavy inflammation, and 2 hours after grounding, reduced inflammation. That is factual. That is data. That is science. That is, facts. And I just think that is really, really awesome to see, again, the simplicity of medicine from nature through God. And yet we are just seeking the complete opposite way. We are searching for everything away from nature. We are searching for everything away from earth and plant life and the sun. And we need to get back to that. We need to flip the direction that we are searching. These medicines are free in a sense. They're in our backyard, literally, and they're all around us. And they don't have side effects. They don't have a long list of 20 different side effects that take place when we put our feet on the ground. It's all positive side effects. There's nothing negative from it. So again, just can't relay enough how important nature is and how important the simple things are in our life, like putting our feet on the ground, looking at or stepping out into the sun and looking for nature to supply everything that we need. It's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to step out into some different categories here, which I think are still extremely beneficial.
The airport, and just an FYI for everybody, okay? When I went to go check into security and they asked me to stand in front of that thing that scans my face and gets my biometric data, which is actually a term that they use for it, I just said no thank you. And they gave me my passport back and they let me through. Then when I went into the security line and they told me to go through that big machine that scans your whole body and hands above your head, I just said no thank you. And they let me through and they did a pat down. Then when I went to go board my flight and they asked me again to scan my face, I just said no thank you. And they gave me my passport back and they let me through. Now, I fly a lot and I've never seen anyone else do this, okay? Most everyone else just lines up and does whatever they're told, okay? So I just must be a complete loser who believes in weird conspiracies and is overly paranoid, okay? I'm open to that. Maybe these things are fine. Maybe they don't matter much, okay? I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and say I know exactly what they're doing with my biometric data, exactly what that body scanner is picking up. But that's kind of my point. If we all can reasonably conceive of some potential risks to biosurveillance, I mean, just read and watch some books and movies from the future, okay? And you don't understand how that wave scanning machine actually works, and you literally just have to say no thank you and you don't have to do them, then why would you, is my question. And have you ever asked yourself why you can opt out of these things? Have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, it's because if you are technically allowed to opt out of them, then they can never be held liable for making you do them if anything were to ever happen? See what I did there? Put two and two together, right? So my recommendation is that when you have rights and freedoms to opt out of things that have zero upside for you, I recommend that you exercise those freedoms. What I've observed is successful people pay attention to risk-reward ratios, and they're not afraid to use the agency that they have. And it's so funny how many people don't even know that you can opt out of these things because they just don't ask questions. That's what sheep do, actually. And I don't know about you, but sheep aren't exactly my spirit animal. I've always been the type of person that just asks questions when people tell me what to do. And if I didn't, then a lot of the things that I love the most about my life, I wouldn't have. So maybe I am a loser who's completely unreasonable, or maybe I'm onto something. And the 1% of people who just don't blindly follow and play by the rules that they've been sold are the ones who often end up in the top 1%. You can be the judge and you can decide if I'm a lunatic, and what you do with the agency that God's given you in your life is up to you. I'm just some dude on Instagram. And that's the vibe today.
I love it. I love it. And the thing about this is exactly what happened to me. I was in the airport and a whole bunch of people are doing what you're supposed to do, doing the eye scan, and the one guy said, no, thank you. And they just let him go. And I'm like, what just happened there? And me and my wife are like, well, I'm going to say no, thank you. I don't want to do that. And so I did that. And it was simple. The big biometric scanner. To me, I don't like the radiation. I think it's a massive amount of radiation. I think there's no benefit from it. And so I say, no, thank you. Pat me down. They're like, do you want us to pat you down? I said, well, I'm not going to go through the scanner. So whatever you need to do. And they're like, okay, come over here. And they do their little pat down and that's it. It's very simple. So again, those conspiracy theorists are batting at least 99% at this point. But again, it's really just about truthful information. It's just about knowing the things that are actually taking place in the physical world, right? And so the biometric scanner emits a massive amount of radiation, and to me, that is harmful. I don't want it. And so I just say, no, thank you. And same thing with the eye thing. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on in regards to any harm being done, but I don't really want them to use anything from that. And so I say no thank you to that as well. So again, the big win here for me is the biometric scanning device that emits a ton of radiation that I do not want any parts of, and I do not want to take that hit. So especially if you do travel frequently, I suggest that you say no, my friend.
Between a supermodel and a normal person is tongue posture. It sounds nuts, it sounds crazy, but I transformed my face from this to this. I fixed my asymmetry, my overbite, expanded my jaw, developed my face upwards and forwards, balanced out my sleep apnea, fixed my posture, and changed everything from the inside out. And the main key driver was proper tongue posture. So here's exactly how to do mewing 2.0. You can remind yourself to do it as many times a day as you want, but if you need to think about tongue posture, it isn't working. It needs to be natural and subconscious. You need to stand up against a wall, smile as wide as possible, say the letter T like this. Hold your tongue at that T spot, and then you're going to smile, open your eyes, do a cheesy swallow, and swallow your spit. From there, your tongue is going to get suction to the roof of your mouth. You're going to continuously keep swallowing while in that position. That will gain the suction, and that will help you keep the back third of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. It will fix your posture, it will open up your airways, and it will change your life forever. Health is looks.
I agree 100% with Oscar Patel here. It's amazing, and he's completely correct. I personally had a tongue tie myself. The posture changes are insane. So what he refers to as the T-spot for you guys is there's this little tiny bubble behind your teeth, and you put your tongue up there, and then essentially suck it up. And this is one of the things you can do. He says do like for your posture, because it's directly connected to your deep frontal fascia, which corrects your posture. You have to do this a couple of times a day. Big upright and a little bit of a chin tuck and a big smile and tongue up. And swallow is perfect. It's in consistency. If you do this 3 times a day, as in like a myofunctional training, over time you will see that your neck will get longer, you have a better posture, your palate might even get wider, and you start to nose breathe. It's a perfect training, and I agree with him. The tongue posture, your jaw, how narrow or how wide your palate is, your bite, it's all a thermostat for whole body posture. And yeah, I have to agree, health is looks too. I always say health and aesthetics, because when you're healthy overall, aesthetics just follow. Great one here. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
So, my friends, I am really looking at this from the health perspective, not necessarily the aesthetic perspective, but I am not a breathing expert. However, breathing is one of the things that is continuously becoming a top priority of mine to focus on. Again, if you don't breathe, you don't have life. So regardless of whatever food you eat, sun you get, sleep you get or don't get, if you don't breathe, then it's all over anyway. So if you're going to breathe about 22,000 times a day, right, you should do that correctly, as well as the whole tongue in the proper position dynamic. This does affect you tremendously. And again, I'm not the expert in breathing. I'm not the expert in tongue posture. But again, this is just something minor that makes a big difference, right? Low risk, high reward kind of a thing. Low effort, high impact kind of a dynamic. So again, if any of you are struggling with breathing, I would really focus on proper tongue posture, proper jaw posture, and again, focusing on nasal breathing as well. So sort of a combo perspective here, but just something that's super, super important and very overlooked. Again, I am not one to major in the minors, but I do think that this is something that is a base foundation of what you should understand of how to breathe and proper tongue posture. It does go a long way, my friends. I promise you that.
Things we have to do. We have to eat healthy food. It's not a luxury. If it means packing your tiffin box from home, pack it from home. If it means finding an organic place, go eat in that place. Second, create food communities. Third, find a farmer or a group of farmers to whom you relate, because food, in my view, is the ultimate currency of life.
Yes.
Current is that which flows.
Yeah.
Food is what flows from the soil to the plants to our gut. And if it's the currency of life, this is the currency we must strengthen. To strengthen it, we must take care of the soil, but we must take care of the farmer who takes care of the soil. So we cannot afford this huge gulf that has been created between rural India and urban India, because food still connects us. If we don't connect to our farmers, we won't be connected through health.
My friends, this is, to me, I've been super obsessed over food for at least 2 to 3 decades. I've pulled back from my obsession with food in a healthy way. I feel like it's healthier, right? For me to not be overly obsessed about every nutrient in every single food, yada, yada, yada. However, this and understanding that food is the most important part to your health. I would say sleep is the most important piece to longevity and to your health, right? You can't do without sleep. Again, don't eat for a day, see how that feels. Don't exercise for a day, see how that feels. Don't sleep for a day, see how that feels. You can't really function without sleep, my friends. So understanding that as part of the natural health optimization and longevity dynamic, the next big piece is really your food. And I want to say it's because of what's lacking in the food that makes it so important, and also what's in the food that we don't want in our food that makes it so important. But again, also from an energetic standpoint, from a nutrient standpoint, from an antioxidant, mineral standpoint, all those things, food is the currency to health. And if you are eating food-like substances, if you are eating foods with heavy chemical, pesticide, heavy metal dynamics, lacking nutrients, do you know that, again, 100 years ago, the food that was grown 100 years ago has 10 to 40% of the nutrients in it today. So we have 10 to 40% of the nutrients in our food that were once there 100 years ago. And that is because of the soil. So to me, over the next decade, this is something that we as humanity need to gain control of, better control of, and really take a grasp on it. We don't need all the commercial agriculture to feed the world. I believe that is false. I believe that we can do that properly with regenerative agriculture and organic agriculture and proper farming practices. I am not an expert on that, my friends. I have farmed. I enjoy, gardening, but I'm not an expert on it. What I do feel very, very in tune with is the soil, food, nutrient dynamic. And again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this, but we need to have healthy regenerative soil that's going to benefit the earth, that's going to benefit the ground, it's going to benefit the farmer, it's going to benefit the end consumer, and it must have the most nutrients that we possibly can have in that soil, which will then be uptake to the food. So what am I saying? I guess I'm saying, my friends, be super conscious of your food, where it comes from, what's in it. I would highly recommend that you buy organic food, my friends. It costs all the time. I rarely eat anything that's non-organic at this point, within my control, right? It's just, man, non-organic food, non-GMO food is just really lacking, so much so from a nutrient perspective. And also, you just don't know what's being sprayed on non-organic food, my friends. It's literally crippling your health. The amount of pesticides and chemicals and neurotoxins that we are bringing into our bodies are doing so much damage. That to me is where so many diseases are being realized, but we don't realize where it's coming from, right? We're so unhealthy, you know, as a population, and there's so much confusion and uncertainty about where these diseases and health problems are coming from. And it's because we don't see the chemicals and the pesticides and the neurotoxins that are on our food, that are in our environment. And so we're not necessarily conscious of it. It's like, I don't know where it came from. I don't know where the cancer came from, where the Alzheimer's came from. Again, one of the most important studies that came out was that golf course study, my friends. And again, don't hold me to the exact number, but I believe it was 126 times more likely to get Parkinson's if you live within 3 miles of a golf course. Okay, so why would that be, right? Well, it's the amount of pesticides, Roundup, and whatever other chemicals that they use on the golf courses to keep them pretty looking and nice. But then all that runoff into our water systems, into the ground, into our environment, is doing massive, massive, massive damage. But again, we can't see it. It's not like a thing that you can see. It's naked to the eye, but it's not naked to the body. And so Cancer Alley in the middle of the United States, right? Where the highest rates of cancer are. That's odd. Why? Well, that's where the most pesticides are being used on farms. Interesting. That's not a coincidence, my friends. That is incredible clues in helping us understand what we need to avoid, what we need to remove. And so, again, my friends, this whole dynamic is just so massively important to our health and to the future of our health as human beings. So, again, my friends, really, really take that seriously. Really start to understand what is in your food, where it's being grown. If you can pick up a local food, please do, right? Your local markets, right? Your farmers markets. If food has to be picked prematurely, unripe, sent on a truck or a plane, and then it arrives in your grocery store a week or two later, they're using pesticides and chemicals to preserve that food. They're picking it unripe, so it's not full of its nutrient profile. If it's not organic and if it's GMO, who knows what pesticides are being sprayed on that food to kill other insects. So we spray the pesticides on the food that kill all the other, rodents and pesticides or pests and insects, but somehow that food is going to be okay when we put it on our plate. That just, it doesn't add up, my friends. So again, please focus on your food, focus on your diet, consume real whole foods, my friend, and buy organic as much as you possibly can. Become friends with your local farmers, attend your farmers markets, and get food that you know is clean and not going to harm your health and your body, my friends. So important, my friends. Last one.
health belief you hold that most doctors would disagree with. Nature is the best healer. It's the heart of what my faith says as well. Made this incredible planet. Everything is good, from the salt to the sea to the sun to the plants to the berries to the bison roaming the land. You know, the connection with your feet, bare feet on the soil. Yeah, all of this. Nature will heal you. And like, don't medicate unless you really have to. Seek out nature. Nature will heal you. You don't need a red light device on the beach. There you go. There you go. And sun those bulls at every opportunity. Sorry.
My friends, Bear Grylls, I respect him a lot. Man of his faith as well, which, you know, is always looked at favorably for sure. Somewhat of a role model to anyone who acknowledges their faith as much as he does. But again, the real healer, my friends, the real medicine is nature, right? Nature. And so I just want to encourage you to look towards nature and look to nature, to God, for remedies, solutions, medicine that he has provided for us already here on earth, all around us. And to really get in touch with that, to really understand as much as you can, but to believe in it, to know that we have what we need here. We have all that we need here. And many of us are suffering from lots of different dynamics, whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's cancer, whether it's heart disease, kidney failure, whatever dynamics, whatever health complications or problems that you're going through. I promise you that there is a natural solution for you. Naturopathy. Lean in to naturopathy, my friends. Seek medicine that is around you in nature and that is ready for us to consume on a regular basis, on a consistent basis. Exercise, right? That's a form of medicine. Sunlight, it's a form of medicine. Sleep, I would say, is medicinal, healing. Our food, right? Also, nature in general. Put your feet on the ground, right? These things that we talk about, and for those of you that have tuned in to a live stream or that are in the school community or that have seen my posts, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? There is no reinvention of the wheel. We're not necessarily looking for the newest, brightest sweet spot that there is, the newest pill, the newest medication, the newest biohack. It's really about getting back to nature. It's about simplicity. It's about being fundamentally sound with your environment, in your food, in your sleep, in your exercise, in your faith. And so, again, my friends, I just want to encourage you to lean into nature and trust in God and nature to help you with your health problems. Go there first. Go there first for the answers. Go there first for the solutions. And I promise you that it will work out the way that you want it to. So, again, my friends, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. If you want to join, check out the school community. It's free. Go to school.com/POH. And again, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless. And I wish you the best along your health and your wellness journey, my friends. Talk to you soon.